Welcome. I'm Chris.
And I'm Chris.
And this is
Mike Fight. Let's get it on.
This is episode 10. We're going to be talking about the cancel culture. Now, Chris, a lot of things have happened lately in the last couple of weeks here. A lot of things getting canceled. A lot of things getting canceled. Things that we love, things that are old, things that have been a part of America for a long time. One of the first ones that I just absolutely just totally like destroyed me. Like, why is anybody going after Hasbro because of Mr. Potato Head?
Yeah, a toy that has interchangeable parts.
Not only that, but there's also a Mrs. Potato Head.
Yeah, and if you want, it has interchangeable parts. You can pick and choose how you want to decorate them.
This is now, what happens now. What I want to know is what does people do with the movie's Toy Story?
That's true.
What happens with toys? What happens with Toy Story? I mean, I grew up on Toy Story.
I think we need to cancel it.
I think Don Rickles is rolling in his grave right now.
Listen, we have to abide by the new rules. So if Toy Story has Mr. Potato Head in there, I'm sorry, but Toy Story's got to go. Tom Hanks, if you're listening,
Tom,
all right,
get
canceled.
on this.
I want a public statement tomorrow.
What is going on here?
Toy Story is no longer allowed to be played on TV.
Imagine that. Could you imagine? That is Disney, right?
You know what?
Pixar and Disney, right? That is Disney. Imagine they pull it off. People, check your Disney Plus. Tell me if Toy Story is still on there. I'm telling you right now. This is maybe they're gonna fade. Right, they're gonna delete Mr. Potato Head from all the from the movies.
You know what? You laugh, but I could see that happening. Right? Didn't they do that with Home Alone 2? Right? Didn't they cut the Trump scene out of Home Alone 2?
They wanted to. I don't know if they did.
I don't know if they did either, but I remember when that clip was circulating.
I think they did it on TV.
Yeah,
because it's still on
the original DVDs. It's still there.
No, but not only that, but on this live stream, because I know during Christmas, or at least during Christmas time, when
you can't say Christmas.
No,
stop. During holiday time.
Is it, the holidays? All right. Excuse me. Right. All right. So during those times, we were watching. My kids were into Home Alone.
Oh, it's two of the greatest movies ever.
And yeah, no one cares about the third one.
No, I don't acknowledge the third one.
No, that was such a disaster. Anyway, so yeah, the first one has the scene where he goes. The second one where he's in the Trump Tower.
Right.
Right, and Trump walks by. And I remember this thing. I was like, "Oh shit, there's Trump," because I hadn't seen the movie in God knows how long.
Yeah,
and all
me
these.
neither.
If anything, I'd always just watch the original. I never really was so much so onto the second one. But I was watching the second one because my girls were into it, or at least Riley was, and I was watching it at my mother's house of all places. And I said, "Hey, look at that! There's Trump." And there it is. And that was on the streaming service at the time.
Okay.
So it hasn't been pulled. It hasn't been pulled as of yet.
Actually, yeah, I think you're right. Because I think someone from one of the networks said that they pulled the scene from the TV,
like the TBS or something
for
like
commercial cuts.
Yes.
Some bullshit excuse like that.
Yeah. So little Kevin McAllister is walking through Trump lobby, and there's Donald Trump, and he asks him if he can, can you point me to the front desk or something? And, Donald Trump's there looking down at him. He says, yeah, it's right there over there that way. And that's it. He just happened to look by, and then he walks on by. That was it.
It was a very innocent scene.
Has nothing to do with anything.
Dude, it was actually so inconsequential to me, though. Like, I've seen that movie so many times, and even after Trump became president, I watched that movie. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've watched that movie probably a dozen times since Trump's been in office, and never once did I watch that scene and go, "Holy shit, President Trump, that's cool." I just watched the movie, and to me, it's a funny movie. Joe Pesci is hysterical in it.
Oh, yeah.
Macaulay Culkin's awesome.
What wasn't it?
Daniel Stern is
Christopher
freaking
Columbus,
good.
right? Isn't that Christopher Columbus? Not Christopher Columbus. Is it Christopher Nolan? Who wrote Home Alone?
Oh, that I don't know.
phenomenal writing. I know he's done other. Not Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, no, I don't know where that came from. Probably because he's been canceled
water.
too, so it's on your brain right now.
I'm telling you, this
cancel
cancel culture is ridiculous.
But
Mr. Potato Head.
But that's the thing, though. I've watched that movie a million times. It's never dawned on me. But there was somebody out there who watched that movie and specifically froze that scene and had a meltdown in their living room. Someone probably had to call the 911, have the ambulance respond, had to put them on oxygen, give them a fucking orange juice packet just to get their blood sugar up because they had such a meltdown in their living room over seeing Donald Trump in a movie that was made 25 years ago.
Unreal.
That it just shows you how fake cancel culture is, because that movie's been on the air for that long, never was a problem. Nobody ever cared. No one gave a shit. People probably saw it and was like, oh, shit, that's funny. And now all of a sudden, 25 years later, some idiot on his couch in his underwear, eating a Hot Pocket, watched that scene and had a full-blown nervous breakdown.
John Hughes, by the way, I was completely off.
Yes.
I
Some
was
of my
so
favorite
off.
80s movies of all time.
John Hughes is the writer of both Home Alone 1 and 2. Completely off on the writer.
It wasn't Christopher Columbus. Don't
Definitely
fact check us, okay?
No, I did it on myself. But I mean, this is getting actually quite ridiculous because not only did Mr. Potato Head come out, but just recently now, Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
6 books. 6 of his books. And if you were lucky enough to purchase any of the 6 prior to this, your books now are worth tons and tons of money now on Amazon, because Amazon, who is notorious for being a cancel agent.
Yeah, they're in the book burning business.
They cancel everything.
Mm-hmm.
They won't even they won't produce things either.
Right.
Like if they don't agree with it, they won't put it up there, which again,
it's a free market.
They're allowed to do it, but the hypocrisy of it is what it is. Okay? Don't stand for something one way and then allow something else to happen. Like, you just can't do that. Okay?
Right.
So they've canceled 6 of these books. Okay? These books were written in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah.
Okay? 1930s and 40s. And it doesn't actually say that they were explicitly racist. Right? It says that they portray people harming others, or they have racial undertones. Undertones.
Decided
Who the
by
hell?
who?
Right. Who the hell are you to determine what is a racial undertone? What? Let me ask you this. Did you know Dr. Seuss? Did you interview him? Did you have any conversations with him? The answer to that question is a resounding no. Why? Because he's dead. Okay? The guy isn't even with us anymore. And there you go, attacking someone who can't even freaking defend himself. Okay? And say that his work, or parts of his work, have racial undertones and portray people hurting others. Give me a freaking break.
Yeah, this is what cancel culture does, though, right? Because like you said, those books were written in the 30s. Okay, you're talking about 80 to 90 years ago now.
I think this guy was on acid. Have you read some
Probably.
of these books, man?
I mean, you have to be. It's like Alice in Wonderland. You know, that book, you can't read that book and not think that the person who wrote that book was losing his mind at the time.
Exactly.
But the thing is, though, it's like 80 to 90 years that book's been out. It's been read, taught to children. Has there ever been any cases of anti-Semitism, racism towards any minority group, anything at all that is associated with children reading those books?
Is there a guy that I can tell you this. I went out. I remember, it's like you just said, going up. Just imagine a suspect, right? Goes out and commits like a hate crime, right? Commits a hate crime. Let's say he goes out and commits a hate crime. Just goes off and sees a black kid, God forbid, and goes and just starts beating the kid. Or happened in New York, right? There's a Jewish guy waiting at a bus stop, and a whole bunch of people come over and beat the shit out of the guy because he's Jewish, right? Hate crime. So there's a guy goes out there, right? Commits a hate crime. And they interview him. They catch him.
He dropped the Dr. Seuss book
Right.
as he was running away.
They go. Do me a favor. Can you explain to why? Can you give us a reason why you did this? Well, when I was 4 years old, my father used to read me this Dr. Seuss book, and it always stuck with me on how the person in there was hurting this other guy of this color, and that stuck with me ever since. I went through grade school, I went through high school, I went through college, I've had a job, and you know what? I never got over that my 4-year-old self reading or being read that Dr. Seuss book, and that's why I did it.
It was those damn fish. It was one
fish, two fish street.
You know,
you
the
gotta
red
be
fish, the
freaking
blue
kidding me.
That's what it was. I looked at that person and all I saw was fish, and I hate fish, and I just attacked him. It was Dr. Seuss's fault.
Dr. Seuss.
But again, it's the same thing as the movie. It's just, I'm convinced that there are people out there who are probably getting paid to just search for shit to complain about.
There's a whole industry behind it, dude.
Like, I want to know who the person is. Like, whenever this cancel culture shit happens, I want to know who the person was that just read a Dr. Seuss book 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it was for the first time or the 100th time, but who just sat there and literally analyzed the shit out of it. Or maybe he just read a line and it flicked this light bulb in his head where he said, holy shit, this book is racist. And then he picked up another one and he read that one. He went, oh my God.
There it
is. And then
is.
he got 6 books later and he's like, holy shit, this is a trend. This guy was a racist. I need to tell somebody. And he just has a direct line to some idiot somewhere that has some power. And all of a sudden now it becomes this big, media outcry. And yeah, it's like, who's the person who does that? Who are these people?
They have more time on their hands than you and I. That's for sure.
Fucking Dr. Seuss.
I mean, it's Dr. Seuss.
And you have people like Universal, trying to figure out whether or not they want to get rid of that part of the park. You're Universal. Are you that afraid? The amount of money you make a year. Do you really think people complaining about Dr. Seuss is going to affect your bottom line?
No.
It's not.
No. Because there are more people that are sensible about these things and understand that this is just craziness. This is just insanity. Come on. Really? I mean, when you really this is the problem. You don't know the individual. Right? This is accusing this person of purposely writing this material in such a way in which it is intended to be harmful to others. That's what they're doing. And it is simply untrue. And you can't prove it. You cannot prove it.
No.
You're attacking an individual and his work that cannot defend himself. His stepdaughter has come out and said there was not 1 ounce of racism in my father at all, not 1 ounce, right? So, I can't even say this I can't even sit here and say this seriously because it's just so mind-boggling. They're going around Gina Carano, right?
Yeah.
God, I mean, this woman, she's had some hell of a time. She goes out and she says this post. She puts this post on, what was it, Twitter or something? And it was definitely taken the wrong way in which she meant it to be put out there as. And it was being made in some type of political fashion. Now, again, she works, if you don't know who she is, she's a character on the famous Mandalorian on Disney+. She's what's her character's name?
Cara Dune.
That's it. So
badass.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I think she brings a perfect balance to that show, right? Yeah. But she's gone now. She's been fired because of this stupid post.
And her post wasn't that controversial.
No, it really
wasn't. That's the thing. Like,
it actually was supposed to be more of uniting than any type of denigrating.
Right, because this is the thing. That post was showing a picture of, I believe it was Jewish people attacking Jewish people in the street. And she made the comment that what the post meant was, during the Nazi reign, what the Nazis were very good at was pitting neighbor against neighbor. In the very beginning, what they did was they would go out there and they would get you to turn in your neighbor or to go and attack your neighbor. And they would promise you shit like, listen, you tell me where so-and-so is and we'll leave your family alone.
Oddly enough, there are some states that are doing that right now
Exactly.
with COVID.
And that was exactly what she was alluding to, because that's what they were doing. And so what was happening? People were turning each other in. They were attacking each other in the street, and it was just making their job easier.
You literally have in California people calling the cops on their neighbors because they're having gatherings of 5 people or more without masks inside the house.
Right. And that's what she's talking about is now maybe the comparison, you don't like the comparison because it's one extreme, which was Nazi Germany, as opposed to right now where we haven't gotten that far yet. But it's a valid point that it all starts somewhere.
Right.
And this is how it started back then. And it wasn't just the Nazis. The Soviets did it.
Everyone in power does it.
The Soviets did it with the Bolsheviks.
Everyone.
Stalin was notorious for that.
No, yeah.
For sell out your neighbors, sell out your family members. They'd have kids doing it.
The
Mao regime did the same thing in China.
Definitely with the kids. The kids are the biggest thing.
Every communist country has done this in the past. So she was simply making the comparison that if we continue down this path where we have neighbors calling on each other for stupid shit. They're having a family dinner at their house. That's a crime now. That's a crime. Because I want to have dinner with my family. Because you're too afraid to go hang out with your family. And listen, maybe you have a warranted, reason why. Right. And that's your belief, and fine. But you don't have a right to tell other people how to live. If I'm having a dinner with my family in my house, that's not affecting you while you're peeping through your living room window, staring into my living room window to spy on me and my family. You're safe in your house. So you leave my family alone, I leave your family alone. That's how living in a free society works.
That's the cost of freedom, people.
Right. And she's making that comparison, that this is where we're heading because this is what we're doing. Like you said, with the January 6th, incident at the Capitol, there were people on these neighborhood apps that were sending out, neighbors' names, pictures. Oh, this guy lives on our block. I think he was down there. I saw on social media he made a post. Call the feds, turn them in, have the police go there. It's like, what are you doing? Right. Because you think that they were there, or you're just pissed because they have a Trump flag on their front lawn? That's the comparison she's making. That's not controversial. That's opening your eyes. That's getting people to try and think like, wait a minute, let me see the picture. Let me open up a freaking textbook and see what she's actually talking about, and then compare it to what is happening now. And maybe we can actually come to some form of a compromise where, oh yeah, I can see your point. You may not agree with it, but I can see where you're coming from.
Those who do not know the past are doomed to repeat it.
Right.
Bottom line. So that's where she was.
Right.
And Disney said, nah, that's not in line with our views. That's not in line with our policy. That's not in line with your contract.
Which is weird because you know who else made the same exact comparison except to a different reasoning?
Hit me up. I know what it is, but go ahead. Let the people know.
Pedro Pascal.
Oh, the Mandalorian himself.
The Mandalorian himself. Who was it, a year earlier or 2 years earlier?
I think it was 2018 was the big one.
Right. Posted the picture, compared it to kids in cages in America, posted a picture of kids behind a railing fence. It turns out that picture wasn't even a picture from the United States.
That's not even the United States.
It was from another country, and it was like kids waiting on a food line or something in another country, waiting to get food. And he was comparing that Nazi Germany to kids in cages in America using wrong information.
That was
wrong.
That was at 2018 or 2017, 2018 when everything was on the Trump administration for the kids in cages.
Right.
Right. So
he makes that post. Nothing. Was it wrong? Was it stupid?
I think I think I actually heard Jiminy. The cricket. I think I heard Jiminy crickets. All right, they were just like chirping.
Yeah, nothing. He was actually applauded. Of course, the left celebrated him. Celebrities came out. Oh my God, you're a social justice warrior, and he came out like this big hero for the left. Which again, fine. You're putting out wrong information, but you're trying to make your point. The left loves you for it. Fine. Were people calling for him to be fired from the right? Were people asking him to be canceled off The Mandalorian? No.
And
of
even
course
if their
not.
people
'Cause nobody
were,
cared.
but listen this way. Even if they were, they're wrong.
Right.
That's it.
Plain and simple.
You're wrong. The man has a right to his opinion. The woman has a right to her opinion.
And they're friends.
Yeah.
To this day,
They're actually still friends.
because they understood. They made a pact. If you actually listen to her interview, they made a pact that despite the fact that they don't agree with their political views, that they're humans first and they're friends. And that's that. And they shook hands and that's that. But yet Disney, of course, has to cave to the culture because they have to do their fake virtue signaling too, decided to cancel her through social media. They didn't even tell her.
Well, they fired her.
But they didn't even tell her.
Oh,
she
is that
found
true?
out. She found out through social media,
Oh,
and they leaked an email. They sent it to her by accident, where they were talking about
See, that's just wrong.
getting rid of her.
This people.
That's a Disney, a corporation. You couldn't
Disney-
even tell this woman
Disney's
to
not-
her
Dis-
face. You couldn't bring her into an office to tell her she was fired
This is not-
because you're cowards.
This is not the Disney that Walt made. Okay. This is not the joyous, hopeful company, wholesome company that Walt Disney created. Now, I'm not saying it was all rainbow and sugar
No,
plums.
Walt Disney had his own
He had his
set
own
of issues too.
Okay, and there was a lot of corruption even back then. But this is not the same Disney that we've grown up with. It has definitely changed. It's actually become much more powerful in its and more brazen, I think, in its messaging.
Well,
especially with some of its films as of late and whatnot.
Yeah, but take Mulan. Do you want to believe that this company is some saint? That they want to do the right thing and they actually have principles and believe in society of good. Look at Mulan, right? Mulan was filmed in China, across the street from a Uyghur concentration camp. And again, the Uyghur thing is that's another scandal that is completely ignored by the left. They want nobody to know that that's going on.
They don't want to see any
They're
of that.
Uyghur Muslims in China. It's a province, I think, that China's been fighting. China and there's another country. I forget the name of the country. I forget which one it is. But they've been fighting over this land to claim it their own or whatever. And because they don't believe in they're not part of the Chinese culture.
Right.
So China has been putting them in concentration camps, and they've been castrating them, I believe, too, right? Or sterilizing them.
I think they're sterilizing.
They're sterilizing them, and they're killing them
By
the thousands.
Right, and no
Disney,
one wants to talk about it. Though.
No, of course not, because it's uncomfortable, and it puts a company like Disney in a bad light, and they don't want a company like that to go down in flames because, God forbid, you actually reported on that.
Now here's the difference.
And they
too.
thanked the Chinese government for allowing them to film Mulan there.
This is an actual 21st century concentration camp.
Right.
Okay, 21st century concentration camp, and we have AOC saying that down in Texas, they've got people and kids in concentration camps.
Right.
Okay. I don't think this woman has any idea what an actual concentration camp is.
No.
Okay. Do you think
No.
she ever picked up a textbook to read actually what the Germans did to the Jews when they had concentration camps in Auschwitz?
No. If she did, she probably slept through that class.
And do you think that she even knows about what's going on in China right now in the 21st century concentration camps and what they're doing with these people just because they don't follow their ways?
Well,
No.
she should, and if she does, she just ignores it. She
And
ignores
if she
it.
doesn't, she ought to actually
Keep your mouth
open
shut.
up her eyes, open up your eyes, keep your mouth shut, and actually observe something and learn something.
Yeah, but that's the hypocrisy of this company.
Where's the cancellation of this?
Right, like you have
Where's the canceling of this?
You have Disney firing a woman over a comparison she makes to Nazi Germany to what we're doing today. That's factual. And it's not even to that extreme. And yet Disney films a movie across from an actual present-day concentration camp, thanks the government for allowing them to do it, and they're all fine and good with that.
It's like, thank you for not killing us.
Like,
too.
Are you kidding me?
Thank you for not killing us too.
But nobody says anything.
Nope.
Nobody cares.
Nope. Because no one knows. I'm telling you right now, it's all suppressed. No one even knows this.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. That's part of the problem.
No
but Disney knows it, and they have the
yes.
balls to open their mouth and thank their government for doing that.
I'm actually surprised no one. It goes about perhaps fear, right? People probably do know about it. People that have actually worked on the sets and people that have worked there, and they probably see the injustice and they see the hypocrisy, but they're afraid to say anything, right?
Well, they're not the $1 million actor.
I will destroy you.
Right. They're the camera guy or the grip guy, the guy who sets up the stage, who builds the stage.
Yeah, prop guy.
Right. The union worker. They're not going to lose their job. They got to feed their families. But someone like,
but we
Pedro
can go out
Pascal
and cancel
or
freaking Potato Head.
Yeah, or Gina Carano, they can unfortunately afford to take that type of heat.
This cancellation shit, listen. There is no way of denying bad shit has happened in the past, right? Bad shit. There was bad things that happened all across history. United States history, world history, current history being made right now, the present. There is bad shit happening and has happened. One of the things that bothered me was a couple of years ago, there was someone that was wanting to, when they were reading, I think Congress, the House of Representatives, they were taking turns reading each of the amendments from the Constitution. And they skipped over the one where they did the alcohol, the ban of alcohol,
the prohibition. Yeah,
the prohibition, and then they go in and all they did was they read that they reversed it, or they didn't read that they reversed it, something like that, and it bothered me because it denied an opportunity for everyone that was actually listening to this, if there was anyone listening, but I happened to be listening, and it bothered me because it denied everyone the opportunity to realize that we as a country saw our mistake and corrected it.
Yeah,
it was an example. Same thing with like, I think you mentioned it before when we were talking offline, like Jim Crow laws and whatnot, the slavery, perfect example. It was allowed, but we fought an entire war, and one of the main facets of that war was to abolish it. We as a country have moments in our history where we have recognized our faults and have done measures, sometimes extreme measures, to correct them. And that is progress. That is what makes this country great. That is what makes an individual great, right? What is the first thing they say if you've got a problem? The first thing that in order to fix the problem is to admit that you actually have a problem, right?
Well, you know what? When Trump was in office, he commissioned a 1776 project, which basically did that. He had, I think it was a professor from a college in Missouri, I think it was, who got a bunch of colleagues together and they wrote the 1776 report or commission. I think it was the commission. If you can, Google it and read it. It's fantastic. It's not that long. It's short, but it's very good reading. But that's basically what they did, because they saw a society that was growing more and more contempt of their own country, the United States. because they're constantly being fed all day, every day, this notion that the United States is this terrible country. We're all terrible people. The people that founded this country were awful human beings, and we need to just recognize that and just agree that we all screwed up and we're still screwed up, and nobody's going to be able to fix it except the people that are complaining about it right now.
And that's what I fear that this cancel culture thing is going about.
Well, that's exactly where they're going. So he writes this whole commission where he acknowledges the founding of the country up until this point and writes that, yeah, there was slavery. We did do things that we're not proud of. But like you said, we fought wars. The original, declaration that Thomas Jefferson wrote called for the abolishment of slavery. They wrote letters back and forth to the king in England saying that slavery was wrong. They wanted to get rid of it. The king didn't want to get rid of it. That was one of the main reasons why they decided to rebel against the crown. A lot of people don't know that. Why? Because they're not taught that.
Right.
But they acknowledged it, and they said, we've learned from it, we've grown from it, and we'll continue to do so. And that was basically the idea behind this commission. And it was just to bring back the faith and the patriotism, and the love for this country that they felt was lacking nowadays. And it's because of cancel culture. So what does Biden do? One of his executive orders that he felt was the most important thing on the menu day one he had to do.
Joe, do it, Joe. Come on, Joe. Give it to me, Joe.
He retracts the 1776 commission. Why?
Got to write it, Joe.
They believe in the 1619 Project, which is another bullshit commission.
Bullshit.
And critical race theory, which tries to fight racism by being racist against everybody else who doesn't agree with it. It's just, and this is where cancel culture. Yeah, on that, man. But this is where cancel culture gets their ideas from. It's shit like that.
People think that, one of the things that you're taught in high school, and it's not taught necessarily the wrong way. I think it's just incomplete. There was that whole 3/5 clause, right? The 3/5 clause in the Constitution. People don't understand that the 3/5 clause, they say, yeah, see, a black person is not worth a full person or a full vote. You gotta understand what was going on at the time, right? Everything is done in context, all right? It's not that they didn't feel that the individual was worth less. That's not the case, okay? The problem was the amount of the population at the time, okay, and of the southern countries, and who was there. There were obviously more black people in the South than there were white people in the South because the majority of them were slaves.
Right.
Okay. Now, whether you feel it's wrong or right, that's a different debate. But the reason why it was in there was to appease and to provide a more balanced view or a balanced way of voting for the southern colonies to get them to buy into this whole thing of unity and becoming a country. Okay? That was it wasn't so that they were worth less. That's not what if you actually read some of the letters and the writings of the writers and the framers, they understood this. But there had to be, which everyone's favorite freaking term is, there had to be some type of compromise. Okay? They had to get this country together. They had to form this. And how did they get these people to be involved and to actually agree to this? They had to use them they had to frame it in such a way that the individual wouldn't be overridden by those who were beneath them. Right? Slave and owner, right? If they gave them the right to vote,
then they had the same
then they were
power.
they were going to write themselves out of slavery, and therefore they weren't going to have the workers to work on their plantations and so on and so forth. Now, that slavery is bad, bottom line, right? We know that. That's why it is no longer allowed. But you got to have everything in context. You can't blame today based on actions that happened 200 years ago, especially if those actions have been corrected.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Right?
See,
the whole Dr. Seuss thing. These books were written in 1930,
right.
1940. It's a different context. It's a different timeline. It's a different everything.
But that's what people don't have the ability to do. And it's been like a running theme through past episodes. It's just people, not having the ability to do critical thinking, because they're getting rid of critical thinking. And so people can't just look at information and, deduce from that. So what they do is they look at a situation like you said. They look at something like the Dr. Seuss books, and they say, "Oh, well, this guy was terrible. We have to get rid of him now," because all they know is the life that they live now, and they wake up every day with this culture that we have now that wants to cancel everything and wants to pretend like, they're all perfect and we're all, wrong and evil people, and they can't sit there and understand. We may think it's wrong now, but that's because we have the ability to look back on history and judge from there and correct things that we feel were wrong. But what you have to do is you have to look at the times that these people were alive. All right, like you said, when they were writing the Declaration and trying to form this country and they were preparing to fight the crown, they had to get unanimous voting. They needed all the not states at the time, colonies, on board. And they needed to have a compromise from that. They didn't like the shit that they had to do to get the compromise, but they needed it to form the country. And so they thought, you know what? We write this up the way it is now. We get everybody on board, fight the crown. We win our independence. Once we do that, we'll start to correct all the things that we actually want to correct in this country, and we'll move forward in building it the way we want to build it. But in order to get to that point, you have to start somewhere.
And they had the framers beautifully wrote this work to allow changes, because they understood that in time things change.
Yeah.
So they devised a way to add to the Constitution. They devised a system, a process to change the document, to allow the United States in a current time to make changes. Now, they made that process difficult. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It is a difficult process. To change or add something to the Constitution is a very difficult process because you need such a large majority of it.
And that was done by design too.
It was done by design, yeah. People. Why? Because
they didn't want absolute power.
People are driven on emotion. 1 minute they'll love something, the next minute they hate something. That's what this cancer culture thing is all about. It's all emotion. It's not rational. And the reason why you have to make it tough in order to make these types of changes is because of that. Somebody's got to sit down and say, you know what? Let me think about this for a second. I got to think about this.
But what they don't understand either, though, is cancel culture works in the opposite way that they want, because the majority of people do not agree with cancel culture. And I don't know why they haven't figured that out yet. So when you go and you cancel something, right? Like you said, Dr. Seuss books, you cancel those, and now Dr. Seuss books are flying off the shelves. Their prices are going through the roof, right? Gina Carano gets canceled. What happens to her?
Daily Wire picks her up. She's got her own show coming out, baby.
Her own movie. Writing her own movie, and her action figures skyrocketing in price, flying off the shelves. Why? Because people don't like cancel culture. You can disagree with something, but you don't cancel it.
That should be that right there should tell people. Do you think if this was such a bad thing that collectibles like that would be that hot, would be that much worth of, like, it's almost like a black market type of thing?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be worth that much if a majority of the people thought it was bad?
And that's why I don't understand why these companies do this shit and they jump on board with this crap. You saw it in the Super Bowl with their commercials that they were having. It's like,
I honestly, I didn't watch the Super Bowl at all.
No, neither did I. But I know the commercials that they had. Like I was working anyway. But the commercials, I always see what kind of commercials they have because I'm always curious, because that's the best part of Super Bowl.
Right.
They're usually funny and well written commercials. And
how were they this year?
Not good. No, they were terrible. They were terrible. And why? Because they just keep bowing down to this culture, thinking that is what the majority of people want, and they know it's not. All you have to do to get rid of cancel culture is ignore them. Fucking ignore them. They're like a little kid that's screaming in the corner because he wants a piece of candy, and you're telling him no. You're not getting candy because you have to eat your dinner first.
But how do you ignore Hasbro? Like they've taken away Mr. Potato Head and his.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So I'm not talking about the companies. I'm talking about cancel culture.
In
so
general.
Mr. Potato Head, some idiot decided, a week ago that Mr. Potato Head was this, sexist, misogynist. You're trying to.
He's no longer Mr. or Mrs. There's now just Potato Head.
Right. You're trying to force biological sexes on kids, God forbid. Right. So some idiot decides that a week ago, and they start screaming and yelling. You know what Hasbro should have done? Nothing.
I don't
fucking ignore it. Ignore it.
Like
I release a press statement.
Fucking genius.
I hear you. I understand your concerns. That is not how the company feels about it. This has been a toy that's been around for generations. Kids love it. Sales are good. They're interchangeable parts. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. So we're going to continue selling this product.
It literally pops
and that's
off
that.
and pops on.
That's
it
that.
Pops off and pops on.
Disney gets the heat for Gina Carano. Release a press statement. Listen, her views are not the views that are shared by the company. We hear your concerns.
I hear that.
We'll talk to her. We'll discuss things, and that's it. End of story. End of briefing. You keep her on the show. And the majority of people that watch that show are not these crybabies that are out there screaming for it to get canceled.
No, they're all Star Wars geeks, man, and they freaking love the show.
Exactly.
You're
trying to promote women that are badass, right? That's their big thing. Oh, the women.
Kennedy, I'm telling you, Kennedy's all behind it.
She's a scumbag.
She's a witch, man.
A strong woman. We're trying to promote strong. She's probably the strongest woman you could have got.
She's
you have
a witch.
An MMA fighter who made her living beating the crap out of other women, paved the way
she's being very successful.
Women in the sport of MMA.
Very successful.
Which was unheard of at the time. And then she goes into acting where she's a badass fucking actor.
It's
kicking the crap out of people on TV.
This character was written for her.
Right.
It was perfect.
And she's a great actress too. Very good actress. And people love her. And what happens? She gets canceled. Her stock goes through the roof. She gained like 500,000 followers in like the next 2 days.
Yeah, it's just
if you're Disney and you're seeing that, open your eyes, man. Like
no, Kennedy, clearly, man, she's a witch, man. She doesn't like this stuff. I'll take this a little personal because I like Star Wars and I don't like Kennedy. I don't like the fact that she's behind it. I don't like the fact that she's running Lucasfilm.
But you have to see the shit she's getting. Their YouTube channel has had to I think they've had to stop comments, likes and dislikes, take that stuff off. Every time they post a video about Star Wars, it's just littered with thousands and thousands of negative comments. Thumbs down outweigh thumbs up by like a 40-fold.
Wow.
It's insane.
Wow.
And all people are writing is get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. We support Gina Carano. You're all frauds, blah, blah, blah. You know the name. And they're just crushing. Even videos that have nothing to do with Star Wars, Gina Carano, or Kathleen Kennedy. Just any video they post gets crushed by everybody. Yet they still carry on thinking that they're on the right side of this.
I can't wait till she's off the project of Lucasfilm. I want them to take her away and not bring her anywhere near Star Wars. I want Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to run the Lucasfilm all day long, because at least we'll have fans of Star Wars. And I mean that. I don't think she necessarily dislikes Star Wars. I don't think she likes the old way of Star Wars feeling. I think she wanted, like you had mentioned before, women empowerment, which is nothing bad about that. You want to have a female lead role, that's more than fine. Legends had that with Star Wars, all the books and whatnot. There was plenty of female lead characters.
But it's not just female either. It's they're trying to claim that they're for everybody, like minorities, social justice, the same shit. But look at what they did with the, what was the guy's name? Boyega?
John Boyega?
Right. When they took him on the poster, right? They made his picture smaller and put him off to the side.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to have such an emphasis on him as a character.
Really?
And he made a bunch of public comments against him.
I heard his public comments.
Right.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of heat for that. So again, it's just hypocrisy.
That's
When you want it, when you want to be a social justice warrior, you go with the flavor of the day. And when you want to be a piece of shit, you film across the street from a concentration camp. You put John Boyega down at the corner of the poster, and you allow, fucking cancel culture to just get rid of one of the best characters that you created for that series.
Right. Bottom line is you can't fucking get rid of everything that you just don't like. Okay? That isn't the case here. That isn't how things are done. You don't like it, fine. Now, if it's egregious to the point where people are getting harmed or killed, I mean, yeah, stand up and say something and garnish a bunch of people to your cause. But if it's just because it's got what, quote unquote, undertones, and that's your opinion.
That's an opinion,
right?
It's
that's
subjective.
Your opinion. There is no. How do you go about saying that this needs to be removed? I mean, come on. Christopher Columbus, the statues,
yeah,
right?
George Washington,
they want to
Abraham
take George
Lincoln.
Washington, for God's sakes. The man was the first president of the United States unwittingly. He didn't want to be.
He didn't want it. He said the power was too much. He didn't want that kind of power.
This was a man that understood that power corrupts. He didn't want it. He didn't want any part of it. He was begged, absolutely begged.
Yeah, I think he turned it down a couple of times before he finally took it up.
They came to him and said, George, this is exactly how the conversation went. I'm going to tell you right now, Georgie, listen, they're not going to go for this man. If you don't sign, if you don't lead, they want you. You're the only one they want. If you put anybody up there leading this country, it's going to fall apart. They're not going to sign it. They're not going to get together, man. Georgie, we need you. Georgie, I'm telling you right now, you got to come. You got to do this. You got to step up. And there's George. He's sitting down, and he has like his Godfather moment. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. He's sitting there. He don't want to do it, man. He doesn't want to do it. He's like God. And Georgie was a big faith guy. He's there and he's sitting in his chair and he's by his fireplace. And he's like and he's chattering his wooden teeth. God, what do I do? What do I do? Man of faith that he was. He comes up and he says, I got to do this. Not for me. I got to do this because we are on to something here. We need this thing called freedom. And I got to do it for the better good of everybody else.
And they fought too hard, too long, lost too many people for him to not. Because if he wouldn't have taken the mantle as the number one, who knows where this country would have been, Who knows if it would have fell apart, if people would have lost faith,
We wouldn't have a country.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
But, I mean, cancel culture is just... Ignore it.
You want to cancel that.
Ignore it.
You want to cancel George Washington and everything that for that conversation, that the way it just went down, you want to cancel that? Come on now.
Nah, it's not. They don't. It's power, right? It all comes down to power. That small little group of cancel culture, whiny crybabies that have a big mouth, they want that power. And they love screaming and yelling about something so stupid. But companies like Disney or Coca-Cola folding underneath their finger like a piece of paper.
I always knew I didn't like Coke.
Yeah, they're another shitty company. Again, ignore them. If you just ignore them, they go away. They'll move on to the next thing. They'll try and cancel something else, and then you ignore them again. This is going to create a parallel economy. That's what's going to happen, right? So like you said, Gina Carano gets canceled, but what happens? Ben Shapiro has his own company now, decided he was sick and tired of cancel culture. He created his own company, and there's a lot of conservatives out there that are doing this.
Oh, yeah.
They're binding together behind closed doors most of the time, and they're coming up with plans, and they're creating film companies, production companies. They have their own podcasts, their own news stations. They're going to create their own server farms, and eventually they're going to get away from all this shit because They know, just like Parler found out the hard way, that in an instant, they can be taken off the face of the planet.
Absolutely.
So they're going to create their own companies, and cancel culture won't be able to do a damn thing. They'll cry and scream all they want, but conservatives will have their own companies. They'll make their own films. They'll release their own music. They'll print their own books, and people will flock to them. Even people on the left will flock to them because they have to know what's going on. They have to.
Yep.
They need to know.
Yep.
So why does Fox News have the best ratings out of any news station in the company? In the country,
watches
everybody watches
Everyone
it, including
watches
people
them.
on the left,
Including
because
the
they
ones that
need
don't
to
want
know
to.
what's
Yep.
being said on that station. And eventually, cancel culture is going to become non-existent. It's going to burn itself out because people are going to have an outlet to go to.
Fed up. They're going to just be way too fed
They're
up.
going to have an outlet.
That's it.
What would you rather do? Would you rather go to a company that's going to potentially get rid of your favorite character or your favorite TV show in an instant because somebody complained about it? Or would you rather go to a company where you know the show you watch or the book you're going to read is safe? You know?
Yeah.
I'd rather go to that company. And they're going to make their own billion-dollar companies, and they're not going to have to listen to these people anymore. And they're going to eat themselves.
That's basically what it's going to come down. They're going to cancel culture is going to wind up canceling itself.
Yeah, I mean, they did. The company that created the stage for CPAC, a liberal company, liberal female. She's donated or supported, Democrat nominees for the past 20 years.
That was just like ridiculous. I'm like,
right?
Claiming it like some Nazi.
Right. Some idiot was watching TV.
Oh my God.
Again, somebody who's not on the right. Someone on the left had to see what was going on at CPAC because they just can't get enough. And they sat there and they paused that TV and they stared at it for fucking hours.
It's got the
hours.
It's got the Nazi outline.
Yeah.
Swastika or some stupid shit.
Stupid. They tried to cancel Hyatt. They tried to cancel CPAC.
Right.
They tried to
Hyatt
cancel.
did it, and what the Hyatt do?
They turned around and said, "Fuck you."
Exactly.
And you think Hyatt's gonna? Do you think they're gonna go out of business?
No.
Hell no.
No.
They stick to their guns, and what's gonna happen?
No.
People are going to stay in that hotel.
Yep.
Plain and simple, and they'll make their money.
Unbelievable.
And that's what you need to do. More companies need to grow a pair of balls. Goya was another one. They wanted to try to cancel Goya, and Goya made more money that year than they ever did.
Oh, Goya.
Because he came out and supported President Trump.
I've always eaten Goya beans.
There you go. That's what you have to do. The evidence is out there. When you just ignore these fucking people, you'll be just fine. In fact, you'll be better off. You'll be better off.
But you got to have knowledge. You got to have knowledge. So here's the thing. These people don't have the knowledge. It's all subjective. It's all opinion. You come at them with facts, they start crumbling like a crumb cake.
They can't debate you because they have nothing to debate you on.
Freaking Ralph Cramden. Hamina. They have no clue. None. Hamina. And that's it. You won the argument. Bottom line, you throw two facts at them. They're like, but that's not right.
Well, would we just have the Grammys?
That's not what I think.
Right?
Was it the Grammys?
Was it the Grammys they just
Globes?
had? I don't know. I don't watch that crap either. But the latest fucking award show that they just had, right? It's a bunch of celebrity elites who try to force their social justice.
Grammys is the music,
crap
isn't it?
down your throat. Then I don't know if that was
Golden Globes?
Golden Globes, Emmys. I don't know. It was probably the Golden Globes.
Whatever it is, it's self-grandizing, right?
Yeah, they're all the same. They go up there to accept their award. They give some 5-minute political speech about some garbage that nobody cares about, that's very misinformed and not educated at all. And everyone claps and, pats them on the back, and people go home. And they had, I think it was 65% down.
Oh, the ratings were awful.
In viewership.
Terrible.
From last year.
Who the fuck cares?
And this is during a pandemic when people are home.
They're home.
They have nothing to do. To put the TV on.
Who gives a shit?
Nobody cared.
Nobody cares.
And yet,
they know what they're going to get.
That TV, that company, all those advertisers on that show, on that channel.
I heard it was awful.
Lost how much money?
I heard it was just terrible.
Yeah, it always is.
Heard it was terrible.
If Ricky Gervais ain't the host, nobody cares.
That was it. He said no to it. Right there, I had to tell you.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
Because he calls them out on their bullshit too, and they don't like when he does that.
Bullshit.
But again, that shows you the real power. Cancel culture, when they try to cancel something, turns out to benefit you in the long run. Or actually in the short term too. And when
maybe we should try to get canceled.
Do you know what? We will at one point, I guarantee that. But Yeah, but when a shoe's on the other foot, it's very, very detrimental to you.
No.
It just shows that the majority of people do not agree with your garbage
Nope, that's it.
when the ratings are down 65%. So ignore them.
That's it. That's the message, people. Ignore the cancel culture. Just ignore it. Hit them with facts, and that'll be it. Hopefully, we don't get anything else canceled here on. Although we shall see. There are plenty of dumb people out there.
There's some nerd on his computer right now somewhere.
Oh, them nerds.
Just searching.
Oh,
writing
nerds.
his list, and he's going to submit it to his overlords.
That's it. All right. So with that, we're out. I'm Chris.
And I'm Chris.
And this is where we drop the mic.